Hi and welcome to today's program. We are here at Institute for X to cover an exciting workshop about tools for change. So we're going to talk about connection with ourselves, with the community, about activism and honoring our pain. Follow us.
I got when I was volunteering in Poland, and it was part of our evaluation after a solidarity course through Erasmus. Anyone else? So it both represents that I'm also now an Erasmus Plus coordinator and run my own organization, organize these projects, and the fact that I went through as a participant before being a coordinator, so going through the process of this, and these pros was a part of an evaluation of the project I did in Poland. I really like colors and different shapes and like just objects in general, like being creative, and I think like a random piece, a handful of pros represents
that. My name is Uge46, and I go by the pronouns he and him. And the object that I brought is here. It's my tote bag that I bring everywhere. And it has a logo of the organization that I founded a year ago called Nuclear Power Yes Please. And I brought this bag because it's a way for me to try to destigmatize the way that people look at nuclear power and try to show people that it's not something that is to be afraid of, and it's something that you can actually talk about in a public space without getting demonized by others. And yeah, it's a way for me, and I also took it back with me because I take it with me everywhere. It's like my følgesvend, it's called. Yeah, I never go without this, and yeah, it just symbolizes what I work for every day with my activism and my daytime job.
I'm Signe, and I go by the pronouns as her or she, her and hers. And I forgot to bring something, but normally, and today too, I travel with my camera bottle and a cup, so I always have the possibility to sit down and get a cup of tea. And I work a lot with climate activism from the Green Student Movement. And right now we're really busy and I'm a bit new in the field. I've started to be like a full-time activist. I have a sabbatical year, and right now I'm using half a year just to put focus on climate and make climate activism. And I'm really focused into all township elections. And this morning I've always been doing a demonstration in front of all township media called Stiften, where we stood and talked with the journalists coming to work and had this poster where we told them about their responsibility into putting focus on the climate as well. So I think I'm very interested in how to do a lot of activism because I find it really important, and still be in balance with myself, so still drink my tea and find the small moments where you relax too. Yes, that was it.
Ooh. Wow. Boom, first circle. So amazing, thank you for sharing. And it's just so little I know of whatever you are all engaged and passionate about, but it's so, I don't know, really, really exciting and so much knowledge in the room. I would also like to encourage all of us to kind of tap into that and use the breaks and every conversations that you can have to connect more. It's really beautiful, and it's so cool, so many different people doing amazing things. Thank you for that, and bringing the objects, or at least describing them. Yeah, so what will happen here today, apart from, I mean, we are already in the motion and process, so this is part of it. But going more, and thank you all who also signed up and answered this content question of what your intention actually is with signing up here. It was helpful a lot. It also gives me the insight that there's very many different needs, that all of them will for sure not be answered in 5 hours here. And I also actually wanted to make it transparent how we come to this space.
What was your goal with this workshop?
Well, the workshop was part of a bigger project called Sweet City. So the ask was to to gather people who are already change makers, activists, or aspiring to be, and talk about democratic actions that can bypass electoral politics. So that was one of the goals, to actually do that, to bring people together in the town who are interested in the topic of change making and go deeper. Then how I work always has this goal of connecting people and connecting also emotionally, because I believe that relationship building is a huge part of activist work or any kind of change work, really, to both building relationships with oneself, with the issues that we are facing, and with others who are doing this work, and not just those who are doing this work. Kind of gives at least an idea, even if you didn't read all the words there, of that there's many needs. There's some people who are more open and for networking, people who have very specific questions already in the intentions settled. I was thinking about each and one of them and thinking of how to try to find ways to at least offer the space, and then of course it's up to you all how you use that space in getting your needs answered. But I brought it up here also just for you to see, and see if you can also talk to one another and support each other in, I don't know, how to be better at doing volunteer work. And there's for sure others in the room who have done that and have experiences to share, good or bad, and all these kind of things. But this is no. So but what the space is about, it's tools for change. It's a very generic title. We will also go into unpacking a little bit what some of these words in the description of the workshop mean, or what position I am entering them from, because there's for sure not one right way to do activism or even understanding of what activism is. And I come here with my background and knowledge, and it's not the only one, it's just one of the perspectives, and we'll have a look at that. And there will be many things happening. But before that, I also wanted to propose some agreements of how to organize this space today that come from me, but you will be very much invited to add to them if there's something that is really important for you and missing. Those are the ones that are dear to my heart, always used in workshops. Those who have worked with me, you've heard it already 3, 4, 5 times. Bear with me, it's always a good reminder. So one thing, an invitation, is to value the process of this as much as, if not more than, the outcome. I'm really process-oriented person, so this is also, I was thinking about what can you potentially take away, even if it's not in my power to really do that. But the process is important, and just thinking about the stories already shared in the circle, that's the richness from where I stand. Listen from the inside out. Feeling in the gut matters, listen to each other's perspectives, challenge one another. I'm sure there's also differing perspectives on the world. Engage in them without the drama, but like trying to weave these things together. And if I talk too fast, raise your hand. I know that's my issue. Make space, take space. Find it always really important to propose that in the room. What that means is, for me, is that yeah, thinking also about our different identities in the world and in the room. So if you're a person that holds more societal privileges and you used to always be listening to and talking a lot, see if you can use this space to also, as part of your activism, to try something else, to subvert the space, to say less and listen more to people who maybe haven't had this privilege to share a lot in public. Take space also for yourself, especially if you are usually in the background and think that my ideas maybe are not so important. That's exactly the invitation for you to speak up and bring them in the room, because we need them. So, and of course there's no boundaries and there's fluid, so experiment with them, how much of making and taking space you go with. Self-care and community care. Take care of yourself. There will also be another point on this, but engage as much as you want. If you feel uncomfortable at certain moments, feel free to step out. Of course, listen to your bladder, go to the toilet when it's needed and not when there's official break. There's tea and coffee, help yourself. There's quite many people here in the room who are from this space. So Vivian, Lina, Beatrice, Johan, Alessia, Elin has been part of this. Richie, ask them around where things are, where you find the toilet and things like this if you haven't been here before, or what this space is about even. And check in with one another. If you see a person you're talking to, like zoning out, ask if you can help them somehow, if they need a glass of water, or just like really bringing this mindfulness to yourself and others in this space. This is a tricky one today, because this is usually what I say, confidentiality. So what is in this room stays in this room, but we have a film crew, so it's not so confidential. But still, let's see how we can work with this one today. But it's more about, especially when it's, and as Ruta already said, none of the conversations that I invite you to have in smaller circles or couples will be recorded. So just please engage as your vulnerable full self. And that's maybe what it's mostly then applying to, that take the lessons and the learnings, but leave the details, so to say. If there are stories shared with you by others, anything that's, you know, this is not your stories to bring further, don't. Like, just leave them here. Take the lessons and what you were learning from that. Yeah, and stay open to learning. I believe that our bodies are not there just to carry our brains to places to learn. Our bodies are also learning and like humongous sources of knowledge. So we also have different ways of learning here today. We will break this circle soon, so it's not going to be sitting for 5 hours. Engage with that, be open, stretch your comfort zone, never step into the panic zone. Check in with that. And with that one comes the last but not least, that everything here today coming from me is an option and nothing is a requirement. So to say, all of the exercises, prompts, things that I offer, it's up to you. There will be, maybe you will participate in everything and you will love everything, maybe not, then just step outside, go for a walk if you need that. Be your own guide in this process. Okay. How does that sound? Is there something that is like no, 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 or what does that mean, or something to add?
Sounds great.
Sounds great and pretty clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the voices. Let's see. If you are agreed to these agreements, can we raise our hands and just shake them so that we see? Okay, great. And we'll have them somewhere in the room, and we can come back and let's also take the responsibility to, I don't know, challenge one another, or taking or making too much space and all these things. That's one thing. And then you have something under your seat.
Merry Christmas.
You don't have anything under your seat, but that will be fixed in a second. There you go. Yeah. Okay, but everyone else has something. And I know that educationally this is a nightmare, because now I gave you something in your hand which you want to now go through and read, and I'm trying to talk on top of that. But this is like a workbook for today. There's different things that we will work with already there. Maybe not all of them, then they are staying for another day. Let's see how it goes. But something to accompany you in this process. Agreements are also here. So, and why I did this is also but it's supposed to be a workshop about different tools, so this is also one tool. And maybe some of these practices can be useful with your teams or collectives or something else, so take that as also as an invitation.
What type of tools did you provide today?
So I based the workshop around the work that reconnects, which is very much about inviting people to look at the what is happening in the world through this prism of 3 stories of our time. And then we did work of resourcing and gratitude and honoring our pain for what's actually going on, to tap into what it is that we individually and collectively want to be different. And so those are tools in themselves, and the participants also got a notebook or a workbook with different exercises and questions, and also something called Action Habitat, which is a more hands-on practical tool of, okay, if you have an idea of what you want to change, how can you organize, what are the steps to be taken, to what questions to think about to get from this idea to actually doing it. And then you also see there on page 2, there's I don't call it agenda really, because maybe there is some agenda, but it's rather the flow of the day. And under each of these things, there are many things that can happen underneath. So we are now in this part of arriving, soon closed. Then we'll do a bit of groundwork around just to map of, okay, where do we stand when we think about direct actions, activism, democratic actions, tools, all these things that are mentioned but can be also quite, what's that? Then we'll do, yeah, that's what I didn't mention in the beginning, part of my facilitator work. I'm also a facilitator of work that reconnects. Those that are in the climate activism might have heard about it. It's a movement since the 70s. With many figures in it, but most visible one, Joanna Macy, who is an eco-activist and a scholar in deep ecology, systems theory, Buddhism, and so it's a line of work that has been developed over 40 years, how to really invite people to connect with change work through this deep systemic, also emotional work. So part of this workshop will be based on that work, and that's the kind of this spiral of gratitude or honoring our pain going forth. And then we'll have lunch break in between, somewhere there. And at some point also harvesting and closing. So this will end at some point also. But that's maybe it about the agenda. Let's dive into the groundwork a bit. And I wanted to start with, is there anybody who doesn't have a smartphone here or tablets? No, okay, then we can do that. So I would like to invite you to go to menti.com. The screen is bad, but you also have the code on page 3. And there will be 2 questions to answer or rate. Should be pretty straightforward, hopefully. The first question should be this, if you landed in the right space. So, thinking about the world right now, how serious are the problems we face? Almost everyone. Okay, what comes up for you when you see these 2 questions and responses? Whoever would like to share. So this was the one question. The other. Any reflections?
I quite love that in both questions. I think we have all the options for answer represented. So everyone have in every question there's been all 4 or 5 options represented here from the group. So we can bring a lot of different perspectives because we look on the world in different terms, and I think that's quite interesting and is a good way or a good start for discussion.
Thank you, Sina. Anything else that pops up? Yeah, Louisa?
Yeah, I feel like it could be very difficult for me to answer because it really depends on what, like where am I at, because I can be in a place where I feel like there's no response at all, like there's not at all enough response. And then I can be in a space where I feel like, wow, there's so many people doing so many inspiring, amazing things, and people are really like taking action and not just like, yeah. So it really depends on my state of mind or presence. Yeah.
Thank you. Take one or two more reflections if there are any. Please don't feel forced to.
Yeah, I'm in your position, and then I think like here, especially in Aarhus, like there's so many like little groups that they are taking action in many different like problems and approaches. And my question is how we can also like stop dividing those groups and be more, those like arrows that you put in, because. Yeah, I feel sometimes there's like so much going on and we are not going through units sometimes. So that is my approach.
Thank you.
But yeah, I can tell that it's a big subject and a big discussion because it's related to basically the same roots than what you explain. It's I am surrounded by people that are really involved or just sensitive to that, But I don't know at which point it is representative of the percent of the population of my country or of Europe or in the world. And I think always, but no, it also brings me to some moments that unfortunately it don't happen super often, but that I'm a bit in despair, like what I do is really like nothing in comparison to what the government can do and what all governments can do in the world. But I think that as the sentence say, in French is what?
Thank you all. I mean, these two itself, I think, could be like really very deep ground for discussion for hours to look at. Okay, some people also think that there's actually no problem at all with the world, and there's no right or wrong. But it's just interesting to explore what's the positions we are speaking, what do we see and what we don't see, what our privileges allow us to see and don't see, and so on, and our relationships and connections. I've done this, I proposed this exercise in different groups, and what strikes me always is that still, of course, and there's always these different answers, and there's always also this that kind of this very serious or catastrophic is mostly there, depending on what group. And then when you work with like mainly climate activists, it's almost always the catastrophic one, and then if you work with women, it's also almost always the catastrophic one, and so on. And in mixed groups, it's mixed. But what is really interesting, and which happened also here, is that still, if we think about this, then the highest is this like kind of slight response. More than half of the people in the room think that the response, and of course it is difficult because, as you all mentioned, there's all these different ways of making change, but the question how it's framed about the collective response, apparently it's still slight. And this is where always for me also comes the Joanna Macy, which I already mentioned from work that reconnects, that she was saying that for her the most troubling and the saddest part of the predicaments that we are in is not necessarily all of these things that are happening, which are of course also tragic, of I don't know, species going extinct, still so much violence and oppression towards different kinds of people and more than humans and so on, and that's given all that, that's still there's so much apathy and the response is not even close to kind of being as strong as some of the things that we are experiencing. So this workshop is also about this. How can we, and here I guess, I hope that we are here because we are trying to push in our little ways that we can, or bigger ones sometimes, but how to activate and go from this despair, disengagement, and sometimes powerlessness, really, which I also feel in certain ways, how to actually respond to these like really serious things that we are collectively experiencing, whether we see it or not, depending on our position. Yeah, how to move from that to an engagement, to this what is called active hope, which is not just sitting and hoping that something will happen, but actually contributing something so that what we hope for is more likely to happen. So this is what's this mainly about. I will get rid of the slides soon. This was that, and then we move on. Did you ask some people to talk with you also? Or? Start with the participants after the workshop, or can I come
But if not, yes, I would appreciate it.
Then you tell me. It's also what's coming up, and I actually really like these, but more like for you in your collective or with the people who you do certain activist work with, yeah. So you talk from the personal and the struggles with confidence and taking up too much space, and this, there's things happening in Denmark.
That was all from Tools for Change in Institute for X. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe we'll see each other next time.